Saturday. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Try Together. Wow, I am robust right now. I feel hella strong with my voice. I am your host and founder, Pretty Bidet. You are tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination today, including my foggy glasses and my cup of chai, and it's Saturday. So today I am here talking with Miss Toya Bond, and we are here to talk about suicide. My voice. I am your glasses. I can hear that. It's all good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How are you today?
I feel much better. I'm alive. I feel really energetic. So we're going to talk about suicide. And some people may like it and some people may not. And that's not my problem. So my problem is my job is to inform. So you good?
Yes, I'm good. I'm going to share the broadcast and then we'll be
Okay.
good.
I'm over here sweating. My
Uh-oh. Do you
eyes
have
are
do you
sweating.
do you have a small fan that you could use?
Yeah, I do have a fan near me.
Why
It's all
don't you
good.
get your fan so you'll be more comfortable?
Bring it closer. All right, I'll be right back.
Yes. Yes, go get your fan.
Yes, Mom. I think this is the funniest Saturday live.
Yes.
All right, we're back.
Okay.
All the redness.
Yes, definitely. I had on a white shirt, but I felt like it was fading me out, so I took it off.
And now we're matching.
And now we're matching. Now we're matching.
All right.
All
So
right.
let me tell the viewers a bit about you because these 2 minutes have been a bit. Now my fan's facing a different way. All
That's
right.
okay.
So, Ms. Latoya Bond is a field advocate for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. She's also the host of Speaking of Love, the podcast created in honor of her late father who committed suicide in March of 2020. So, where do you want to start? Do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
Well, wherever you can guide me, we can talk about suicide prevention. That is something that I have dedicated my life to since the passing of my father. Just to give you a little history about my dad, my father was a radio TV broadcast engineer, which is a fancy term for cameraman. He was a cameraman for WXYZ Channel 7. He started out here in the city of Detroit working at WGPR TV. He was one of the founding members for WGPR TV, which is the
Wow.
first Black-owned radio station in the United States. And he was one of the first employees hired for the radio studio when it first came into at its inception. And my dad was a wonderful guy. He had a very successful career. He was a wonderful person, and for reasons that no one can really understand at this point, at the age of 67 years old, my father murdered his wife and moments later murdered himself. So, because of this tragedy that I'm faced to live with, I have dedicated my life to becoming a suicide prevention and a mental health advocate, because when people commit crimes such as what my father committed, murdering his wife first, then taking his own life, there is definitely a problem with your mental health when those types of events occur. So that's what I've dedicated my life to doing. I have started a podcast in honor of my dad, and today I recorded my 60th episode. The podcast is called Speaking of Love, and I interview people from all around the world for the sole purpose of spreading love, for spreading mental health awareness, for spreading suicide prevention. So this is my baby, my main goal in life right now is to help people so that no one else has to feel the pain that I have had to feel from losing my dad in such a horrible way.
Wow. So you stated that, he murdered his wife, then killed himself. So was that your biological mom?
No, that was his wife. They had been married for only
Yeah.
9 months. So she was my stepmother.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. In 2020, in March of
Hmm.
2020 during COVID,
Just
right? Like
before,
COVID
yep,
was just,
yeah,
yeah.
just before we went on shutdown and lockdown for COVID is when it all happened. Yep.
So how, at that time, how did you cope with that news, especially us going into, a shutdown? Like, how was your mental health during that time?
Well, the first week that I found when I first got the phone call at 1 o'clock in the
Mm,
morning, I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I felt very angry. My first emotion was anger. I was extremely angry for about a week. I was so mad at my father for doing that. Like I couldn't believe that he and the word murderer were
mm,
even connected in the same sentence. So for the first week, I was very, very angry with him. But as time progressed, the grief started to sit in, and I became very sad. I became very depressed. I
mm,
felt plagued with a lot of regrets that I didn't, as his daughter, his oldest daughter, I didn't see this coming. I didn't know that he had progressed to the point of not wanting to live anymore. So I carried, and I still do carry, a lot of guilt for what happened to my dad because we were very close and we talked about all kinds of things throughout the course of my life. And in my lifetime, I had situations occur where I didn't want to live anymore and I would feel sad. And my dad was the one who helped talk me off the ledge, so to speak.
mm-hmm.
So for the fact that he did this is still surreal to me, even after a year and a half of living through it.
Do you feel like, when you're told that, he murdered his wife and then killed himself, it's like, did you question, like, do we really know the truth of what happened? Like, how can they be sure that that's the scenario when no one was there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never doubted that he did it. I believe
Hmm.
that he did that. I do. But
Hmm.
I believe that the mentality at that moment wasn't my father. Something
Mm-hmm.
triggered in him, and that wasn't the Herman McAlpin, my father that I knew for 67 years. He would never murder someone. So something happened mentally to
Hmm.
make him do that because he loved his wife. If you Right before he passed away, his Facebook profile picture was a picture of her. So I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know what led to this, but I know that I'm not
Yeah.
excusing him. Please don't think that. I'm not excusing him. But what I know is that if my father was in his right mind, this
Hmm.
never would have happened.
That makes me, I mean, I don't know the truth. I agree with what you're saying because, you could be a great person. Let's say me, for example, right? Or you, though you that I know, how you see me doing Chai together. Suddenly tomorrow you find out I did something. It's like, how can Pratiba do that? Like, she
Mm-hmm.
advocates for this stuff, right? It's because something triggered me, and like, we still don't have the answers of how the brain works, like even in psychology, psychiatry, and they really can't explain certain things why people respond the way they do. You stated that he had posted her picture, and that just shows that how emotionally involved he may have been. And then maybe if there was a news, and I don't know this, right, I'm just saying like a example scenario, that maybe he found out that there was some betrayal or something that led him to do that, like just
Mm-hmm.
an example,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
then maybe he found out something about her or something that was hidden.
yeah, and I don't think that was the case either because she was a
Yeah.
beautiful person, and I'm very limited on what I can say about her
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't have permission from her family to speak on her. But what I will say
Yeah.
is maybe she came to a point where she just didn't want to deal with the
Mm.
problems that he brought into her life. I don't believe it was her at all. I don't
Mm.
believe she betrayed him or did anything. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
don't feel that she was that kind of person. She was a beautiful person and she loved my father. And my
Yeah.
father had a lot of love around him when he was with her.
Wow.
So she did
Yeah.
not deserve this. She didn't.
No. And you stated he was 67, great career, and you really just don't know. It could be, a happy person, it could be anyone, but a lot of people when they do get older, such as I know you heard like Robin Williams, he committed suicide. I forget the other gentleman who was like the chef and who's traveling the world with his show. And there's like so many people, but when it gets to like the older age, that's when I feel like you reflect on everything. Like, what are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts when like, you're just like, I'm just gonna end this, you lived your life. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think in situations where people they come of age, I think they look back on their lives, and like for my dad, he was very successful, very
Mm-hmm,
well known, he was very smart. So to reach the age of 67 years old, maybe there was some things in his life that he
yeah.
hadn't had the chance to accomplish, or maybe he was upset that he wasn't the man that he used to be. I don't know. Maybe
Mhm.
there was a longing
Yeah.
for the person that he was before. That all of that can contribute to thoughts of
Wow.
suicide. If you lose your job or a life change and
Mm-hmm.
going through things of that nature, you wish for the happier days in your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Now I want to go to, your journey, like how you started the podcast and started advocating, like how long after, your dad's suicide did you start talking about it?
Within weeks, within about 4 weeks, I started my
Wow.
podcast because I was already
Wow.
a radio co-host. I was the co-host of the Michael
Mm-hmm.
Van Tool Show, and I was already speaking publicly. But when you're co-hosting another person's radio show, you can't come with your own agenda. And I decided when my father passed away that I wanted to step out and do my own thing. I wanted to talk more about suicide prevention and awareness. So that's when I started my podcast, and I used that as a platform for spreading
Mm-hmm.
love and spreading awareness. So it was within about 4 weeks.
Yeah. And I see that sign in the back of you, and I know you love the color red. Um,
Yes, I'm starting to fall in love with the color red. My favorite color pattern, I love black and white patterns. I wear black and white a
mm,
lot, but I am starting to fall more in love with red. And this photograph behind me is a
mm-hmm.
picture of me and my dad. My friend had a friend of his
Mm-hmm.
paint this for me using one of my photographs. So this is a picture
Wow.
of my dad and I on my 40th birthday. I went over to his apartment and we were just playing around, taking photos and having a good time. And he said, "Well, let's take a selfie together." And in the selfie, you can see how my head is so close to his head
Yeah.
because he was a photographer. So he would say, "No, let's get closer together. Let's make it look more intimate. There you go. Now
Wow.
snap it." So, that's why we're so close together. But a friend of mine, his name is Lee Shelby. Lee is
Mm.
such a wonderful man. He surprised me on the 1 year anniversary of my father's passing with this
Wow.
beautiful painting of me and my dad. And he had someone make it for me professionally, and I will cherish that photograph until the day I die. I recently talked to Lee, and I told him that if my home ever caught fire, the first item that I would grab is that this
Mm.
photograph behind me because it means that much to me.
It's so amazing. Yeah, and it's a great picture. Like, that's your dad. It's like, so I want to ask, did you receive like any negative feedback or any, comments from relatives or people, to influence your thinking and things during that time?
Um, Not really. I think
Mm-hmm.
every person in my family knew my dad and the man that he was. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, we're all very hurt by what he's done, but I didn't really get a lot of negativity about what has happened. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Even in the public eye, I feel like my podcast has been well received. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't received a lot of what they say, like hate or anything because
Mm-hmm.
of what he did. I think people understand that when a murder suicide takes place, there are two families that are devastated from it. So
Mm.
my father's wife, her family, her children, they're devastated, they're destroyed because of what my father did. But at the same token, me, my sisters, my cousins, we lost someone that we love too. And that was just
Yeah.
one day in my father's life. He lived on this earth for 67 years. So we have more of a history to go
Mm.
by and memories to go by. So it's a tragic loss on both sides.
Wow. How are you doing now with it? I know you said you still feel guilt.
I do. I still
Mhm.
feel guilt. I wish I could have been there to help him,
Mhm.
to know that he was going through something so horrible, to know I didn't even know he owned a gun. I didn't. So to know that he was facing such a hard time in his life and I couldn't be there for him, it
Mhm.
kills me inside. And that's what suicide does. Like, this is a normal feeling. I've learned this is
Mm.
normal for me to feel this way, because when a person that you love commits suicide, it does set a platform of guilt with the people that you leave behind. So it's normal for me to feel this. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I wasn't there to help him, to save him, because when he needed help in his life, I was always the one he would call, either me or my
Mhm.
sister. Latoya, how do I use the computer? Oh, Latoya, what's my email address? And his email password, the password
Aw.
to get into his email was 123 456. It was like, why? And he made it that way so that if I needed to go and check his email, I could do so.
He's so funny.
He was.
I feel like when you talk about him, like I can feel his spirit, like his personality and his, vibration. Like I can feel the kind of person he was, just like goofing around, just
and
living
what
his
I
best
and
life.
what I have learned about my dad now
Hmm.
that I didn't know then is that my father used a lot of humor to mask his
Oh,
pain. hmm
oh,
If he was having a stressful day, I would call him and say, "Hey, Dad, how was your day today?" "Oh, I had a
mhm.
horrible day today, Latoya. I'm ready to go to the Ambassador Bridge." And I would say, "Why do you want to go to the
Oh,
Ambassador Bridge?" He'll say, "Because I'm ready to jump. I'm ready to jump." But it was all in humor.
hmm,
But now I realize it was deeper than just cracking a joke, so to speak.
yeah. That's I learned. You okay?
hmm
I learned years ago that, when people joke, even I have, certain old friends now that who joke, such as like damn, I'm fat, or like talk negative about themselves in a joking way, even if they're like comedians, right? Or like I'm this, I'm that, whatever it may be. I don't remember. But I let it be known that, hey, you shouldn't talk about yourself like that. But that shows me where they are, because they've had their family members, someone in their family who committed suicide, and now I do feel they're using humor, comedy, right, being a comedian, to express how they feel about themselves because of that and more. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned that long time ago, that when someone's joking about something deep like that, that it's rooted. um, you also stated that you didn't know that, let's say, secret, right, quote unquote, that he had a gun. Like, it's like he lived a life that only he knew. Like, that part of his life he kept secret to himself.
hmm
You know how they say people have two sides to themselves? Like, you may see me here on Chai Together, but let's say I'm battling with god forbid, like drugs or something on the side no one would know about. And let's say, like, before you guys knew me, it's something I've been doing since I was like 14, who knows, right? That kind of life. So do you feel that that's something very like common and normal, that people may have, a secret, that like something no one knows about, not even the closest person to them, right?
Yes, and I think it's all rooted in battling depression.
Mm,
It all stems from depression, because only a person who is struggling with depression
mm-hmm.
can take their mind to such a place of darkness.
That's right.
And I know that my dad was struggling with depression. I know that he enjoyed alcohol. He used that to numb whatever pain he was feeling. So there's several different components that led to the suicide and the murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one family here, someone I went to school with, and I won't state names, obviously, but it happened in our town where her father did the same situation as your father, but she was not home at the time. But everyone else passed away from, being shot, and then he killed himself as well. And that was
Mm.
someone I knew. Like, I knew her mom, I knew her, I hung out with her, and I would see her mom at the mall and everything, to know that, like, that person's really gone. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's almost unbelievable when cases like this happen, because it's like, oh, that doesn't happen in my town, but honestly, it can happen anywhere,
It can
and then
happen anywhere.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then another one had happened with a friend of mine and his cousin in the same town here. But those are the only two times over the long period of years that's happened. But um, when it happens, when you know people, that are responsible to do that, it does make you question that, did I really know them and things. So I know you know your dad and you were close to your dad, but like, how does that like truly make you feel? Does that make you feel, that, oh, he didn't, feel comfortable or trust in you enough to share that with you, what he was going through, that he just didn't know how, maybe regarding mental health?
Yeah, I think the main reason that I was in the dark about a lot of it is that he didn't want me to worry about him,
Mm.
because my dad had prostate cancer at one time,
Oh,
and it
wow.
was a very mild case of it. It was maybe like a stage 1.
Hmm.
And when he called to tell me that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, I started to cry on the phone. And he goes, "What is that noise? What am I hearing?"
Oh.
And he says, "Are you crying?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm crying. You just told me you had cancer. Like, how am I supposed to respond to that?" And
Right.
so we got off the phone, and he called back about an hour later, and he goes, "Are you still crying?" So I know that my dad didn't want me to worry about him. And
Mm.
with the prostate cancer, he was actually cured from it, and everything went well with that. But he was a man that didn't want people to worry about him. And I think if he had divulged to me everything that he was going through psychologically, he knew that I would have been worried about him, and I think he wanted to save me from
Mm.
that worry.
This goes back to what you were saying earlier, that, well, this what we know as a statement, when, someone commits suicide, it's not just them, it affects the whole family for the rest of their lives, right? So even though at that time he didn't want you to worry, but um, suicide, it happened. There's nothing that could be done about it, but it has an everlasting effect. But when they're in that moment, reacting, right? Because it's not a response, because it's not like, even if it's well thought out, they're in a different space now. So they're not really considering everyone else. They're doing what they feel is best for themselves, like,
Mm-hmm.
to end it.
Yeah, and it's because
Yeah.
the suicidal thoughts are telling
Mm-hmm.
you, kill yourself. You're better off
Mm-hmm.
gone. You're just a burden to your family. Your wife doesn't love you. Go ahead and do it. So you
Yeah.
have those thoughts telling you to do that, but in reality, that's not real. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
because suicide. The one thing I want to say about suicide is it really hurts the people that you leave behind. The people that love you, your family, your friends. We're the ones that feel the pain and the suffering because you're gone. My dad, he's sleeping in his grave right now. He doesn't know the nightmares that I struggle with, and the pain that I feel, and how I can hear a song and it puts me in a mode of just sadness. So people, when you commit suicide, it only really hurts the people you leave behind. That's it.
This is so real. I'm getting chills, and it's not because of the fan. I'm getting chills because, like, it's so real. Like, and it's not pain. I can't even say it's necessarily pain you're inflicting on yourself by thinking about it again and again. It's a process, and it's because of his actions, and because you being blood, and even if it wasn't blood, the fact that you're his daughter, that is really, really hard to even
Mm-hmm.
move on from. I can only imagine, because, I was sharing about my mom with you, and she's not even gone yet, but she's just in another place at this time, living arrangement wise. And I, I was bawling my eyes out, as if this gives me a taste of what it would be like if my parent wasn't around. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm only 28 years old. To
Yeah.
imagine, like, wow, like, life without your parent. Like, my parents are all that I have. Yeah, we all have friends, but my parents are my only family. So this gives me a taste of, like, how real life really is. Like, if she was gone or my dad's gone, like, that's it. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have, my own family. So it really shines that light. So I know you also create treats and things. Like, how did that start out? Was that because, after your dad passing as well?
Well, no, it was way before my father
Okay.
passed away. I used to be a school. I worked at the school. I was a school administrator, and
Oh,
so there was a time when all the teachers were just walking around the school, and they seemed so sad and so depressed and very stressed. It wasn't a
oh,
positive environment. So what I would do is I started going home on the weekends, and I would make trinkets and little gifts, personalized items for teachers,
oh,
and then on Monday I would present them with the gift, and it just became a love mission. And by the end of the school year, every teacher in the building had a special gift hanging from their desk or hanging in their office or classroom that I
hmm,
made for them. So it was like, my perpetual love mission. So I make one of a kind wooden door hangers. I also make Fox desserts. I'm on the
yes, it
creative
looks
side,
so
so I make a lot
real.
of creative gifts, and
They look
I
so
actually brought some
real.
things. Is it okay if I show you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I want to show you this. This is a Mickey Mouse
Wow,
wedding cake, Mickey and Minnie wedding cake. I made this,
wow.
and as you can see, the detail with the little pearls and the high heel shoe that's
Yeah,
behind me. I made that as well. It's a painting. I think it's an 11 by 14,
wow.
and it's a red high heel shoe, and I embedded real pieces of shattered glass
Oh, wow.
on the heels of it. So those are some of the things I've made. Yeah.
Is this healing for you as well? Like
It is.
you doing your
Mm-hmm.
own thing, you're focusing on something else, right?
My mom came over to my home recently, and in my basement, I have so many door hangers and pieces of artwork that I've made.
I
And
love it.
she says, "Where did all this stuff come from?" And I told her, I said, "Since my dad passed away,
Mhm.
every item that you see here represents a pill that I should have taken to cure my grief and my sadness.
Wow,
So
wow.
every piece that I have made since my father's passing has been very sacred to me, because that's my moment to heal and just be at one with life. And I love painting. I love making door hangers. It just really gives me a sense of peace to do that. And I never took any psychotropic medications. So when I was going through my sadness and my grief over my father, my artwork was my medication. Yeah.
I can also attest to that because after my abortion, I also took an art class and I used, collages and different things, painting to express myself and to heal. And I never in my life have taken medication, throughout my life for everything that I went through. It's like you can heal yourself. I do believe that you can. So, but
Mm-hmm.
are you in any therapy or did you take any therapy, like psychotherapy?
Yes, I did. I took some
Mhm.
mental health classes, and I did have a grief therapist working with me. During
Mhm.
that time, it was COVID, so everything was done virtually. And
Mhm.
then since that time, I have become a field advocate for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. And
Yeah.
we get together on live, and we do things virtually once a week. But now that COVID is kind of slowing down, I'll be able to go out and speak in public and help people with suicide prevention, and that's
Yeah.
definitely my goal.
I know I had mentioned that to you, and I know you're taking the gatekeeper certification on QPR, right?
Yes, I got my certification last night.
Yeah,
I want to show you the certificate, but it's on my phone. But I finished it last night, so I'm
yeah,
certified.
yeah. Congrats. I really enjoy QPR. I like how Dr. Quintinet, he, explains everything. The other two trainings I took, they were more, intensive, but I really am glad I found that resource. And I also will look into doing what you're doing, being a part of, an organization. But I've also have thought of making chai together, like a suicide prevention organization, like finding that niche, um,
Mm.
you know, in the future to come. And I also, I do this, I did do this with my mugs, but I do this with friends in general, like,
And I
create
have
little,
my mug too.
yeah. And, I love writing cards. Like, I write cards, just for fun and stuff to friends and mail them, right? Like write a letter. And so since my mom being, living elsewhere during this time, it makes me think like, can I write like, handmade cards to people in there? They could like read them, just saying like, I love you, I don't know you, but I care about you. Or if they would allow me to do that. But it gives me the idea of, chai together, just providing like cards or something to like notes to uplift people who are in like facilities and or prisons and different things like that. So that
Definitely.
idea has come to mind because I'm here writing cards, making doodles and things, and I'm like, I really enjoy doing this. Like, I would like to do more of this, for people like who would appreciate. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's an idea that came to mind. But I want to ask you, like, where do you see yourself, taking this because you've made it your lifetime mission? So, I know you want to speak more, but yeah, tell us more about, your dream with this, the impact you want to leave.
Well, I am currently working on writing a book for
Yeah.
suicide prevention and awareness to talk about my experience. I actually started the book and I was just about ready to press the publish and release button,
Mm-hmm.
but I ended up going through a very difficult divorce, and so at that time
Oh, wow.
I want to make some changes in the book to kind of put it all together, because we went through a pandemic. I lost my father. Now I have another issue where I'm going through a very heartbreaking divorce. So I want to put it all together. So the book has been put on hold for that reason. But
Mm-hmm.
my ultimate goal is I want to become a certified instructor so that I can teach other individuals how to respond in a suicidal crisis. That's my
Mm-hmm.
ultimate goal. That's where I want to take my suicide advocacy. That's the level that I want to take it to. I want to be an instructor. I want to go out to schools and talk to students, and I want to go out to corporate offices and speak to their employees about how
Mm-hmm.
to respond to someone who's in crisis, because you don't need a medical degree. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be a scientist to save a person's life when they're in the midst of a suicidal crisis. You don't need that. You just need the proper training. You need to know what to say and what not to say to save a life.
It's true. And I also want to bring up, people still have this myth that, oh, someone who's suicidal, they already made their decision. Anything I say won't change their mind. That's a lie. I know we learned that in our training too. That's not true. Like, you still can provide the person, with resources and ask them, hey, have you been having suicidal thoughts lately or thoughts about death? I've been approaching a few people like this, even like Lyft drivers, Uber, like they tell me on their own, since I made the decision to get the certifications and look more into suicide prevention, the universe is aligning with me with people who have family members who need help and different things that come to me because you made that decision. Now you open that space, and it has helped people already to where they've thanked me because I'm providing them with resources and asking them if they're having these thoughts, and just that I'm simply here to talk to. And that can really be a big help, knowing
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
please know that I am here to assist you and help you in any way that you need as it relates to suicide advocacy. Please reach out to me, let me know, and I am very resourceful. I can help you and we can work together. I want to collaborate with you on this.
Oh, yay. At first, I didn't know if it was a general message. And now I know it's a message to me.
To you, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you said it before. And, where the radio show, right? You were co-hosting with Michael, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now you no longer do that at all. Is that correct? Or
Well,
you still do?
I'm basically a fill-in for him at this point. So if he
Mhm.
goes out of town, he doesn't trust very few people on his platform. So if he's busy or if he has something going on, he'll call me. So I'm like a fill-in for him. And I go back from time to time, but I'm not doing it full time like I was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's incredible, like when life hits you, as in your father passing, and then the divorce now, right?
Hmm.
And like, how did it make you feel? Does it make you feel like this is, even though your father passed, look at the mission that it brought on for your life? So
Yeah.
do you feel happy about that? Like, even though not happy, of course, that he's passed, but look what it's done for your life and look what it's doing. Like, it was for a reason. Do you feel, even though it was unfortunate, if that makes sense?
Yes, I do feel that my father's passing was not in vain,
Mm-hmm.
because I interview people from all around the world in his honor. And I do believe that I have a message that's being brought forth. And I've taken the tragedy of what happened with my dad and his wife, and I've turned it into something where love is the result. And I feel that I'm helping others. And I know my message is being heard. I have received emails from people from around the world telling me,
Wow.
thank you for what you've done. You know, my daughter is in a mental health facility, or my cousin died, or whatever the situation is. I get messages all the time from people who are thanking me for what I'm doing. And the most important thing is, when a person dies that you love, you have to do something that that person would enjoy and that person would love and look at with pleasure. And I know that my dad loved public speaking. He was always in the news, radio, TV. That was his life. So for me to put this in perspective, to honor him in a way globally, where I'm on TV, I'm on the radio, I'm talking to people. This is what he would want. He would want this message, and he would deliver it the way that I am delivering it. So that right there gives me a sense of peace, because my dad was always ready for public speaking.
Wow. I'm going to watch him. He's online, right? Videos of him.
Yes, yes. I have if you go to my podcast from
Yeah.
last week, you can see him speaking publicly about his career. Yeah.
Yeah. Do share your podcast again and where people can find you.
Okay, my podcast is called Speaking of Love, and you can watch it here every Saturday. I'm live on Facebook, I'm live on YouTube. The podcast is called Speaking of Love.
Wow. I love that. You know, you're the true epitome of love. Like,
Oh, thank
I never
you.
said this to anyone, but you know, when I first heard you, I said, you know, your voice, like it's such a like mellow, like cutesy voice, and the work that you do with creating the crafts and like, you know, your pieces, right? More than
Hmm.
crafts. And your picture of you and your dad, like everything that basically you put out there, it's like such an embrace, you know?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And just a little history about my podcast. My podcast is
Yeah.
called Speaking of Love.
Hmm.
Well, I entitled it Speaking of Love because years ago, my dad hosted a radio show. It was a sports radio show, and the show was called Speaking of Sports. So I don't know anything about sports. My dad loved sports. He loved to talk about basketball, and his radio show, Speaking of Sports, was all about sports in the city of Detroit. Well, I know nothing about sports, so I adopted the philosophy Speaking of Love, because all I know how to do is
Wow.
spread love. I don't know about sports.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I so look forward to meeting you because I will be coming to Michigan, hopefully
Yay!
later this year. So this is so
Well, if you
exciting.
come to Michigan, you have to let me know, because I love to cook. And I'm a big girl, so I'm going to cook
I
you a
know.
good soul food meal, and we are
Oh,
going to eat and just have a great time. So please let me know when you're coming, because my one of my biggest expressions of love in my life is I love to feed people, because where I
mhm,
come from, food is love. I grew up with my grandmother and my mom. My grandmother didn't have a lot of money, but she would
mm,
feed you the best food you have ever eaten in your life. And she would send you home with lots of food. So, where I come from, food is love. So, if you come to Michigan,
wow.
please let me love you and let me cook for you, please.
Oh, you know, this just comes to mind. I have to say, I don't know what fool would not want to be with you.
Oh my God. Oh, you mean in terms of my husband? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. He definitely got some really delicious meals when we were married. I That was one of the things I loved to do for him. And I loved cooking for him. And the best part about cooking for him was serving him, like giving him his plate, because he was a
Mm,
guy, he could eat anything. He wasn't a picky eater. He wasn't like, oh, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. Whatever I
mm,
put before him, he would eat it and he would enjoy it. And
Wow.
even if there were days where I was tired and I would say, "Oh, we're just going to have hot dogs and french fries for dinner," something very simple, he'd be like, "Okay, great, great." So so yeah, he definitely
Wow.
got a lot of good meals.
I love it. I love it. And briefly, do tell us about your daughter. I know she just got her new car. That's amazing. You're doing
Oh,
great.
yes, I
Yeah.
have one child. She will be 21 years old next Friday.
Wow.
So, her dad and I, we got her a vehicle. She's got her very first car, and she is going into her senior year at the University of Michigan. She's on the dean's
Mm,
list. She's been a straight
wow.
A student since, I don't know, the beginning of time. She's just a great child. I could not have asked for a better daughter. She makes me so proud every day, and she's studying psychology at the University of Michigan. She's on a scholarship, and I'm so proud of her. And this is about to be her senior year, so we're proud of her, and I'm sure I'm going to have more great things to discuss about her coming forward.
Wow. What a great blessing. Like, even though those things had happened, in this past year, like, look at all this greatness, like three, four things, from the things
Hmm.
that you create to your podcast, to your daughter, the speaking you're going to do. It's like greatness, is what I see. So thank you so much for being on
Thank you,
Chai
and I see the
Together.
same for you. Thank you.
Aw,
Thank you so
thanks.
much. And I want to thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everything that you're doing to help us all. You yourself
Aw,
are an amazing woman. I feel the love that you have for your mom, and I've been inspired by you from the first time I read about you. And I'm just so thankful that you and I have
wow.
connected, and just keep up the great work. Your platform is wonderful, and I love everything that you're doing. And I
Wow.
bow to your excellence. I do. Thank you.
Wow. That's like emotional. Like, someone could like cry. Wait,
Well,
where did you read?
I have my Kleenex
Yeah.
here because sometimes I cry.
Well, where did you read about me? You mean like
I
in a
It was on
post?
face. It was on a Facebook post, and I
Oh,
followed it.
wow.
And it was something related to mental health and suicide, and that's
Mm,
what caught my attention. And I
wow.
started reading about you and the great work that you're doing. And I saw your pictures of
Yeah.
you when you were young and your mom. So keep up the good work.
Yeah.
The
Thank you
world
for
needs
that.
you. Yeah.
Oh.